All right, today we're going to dive into a chapter of Indian history that you might think you know, but probably don't. We're talking about an empire that didn't just rattle the old powers, it completely replaced them, and in doing so, it set the stage for the modern world we know. This is the incredible story of the rise of the Maratha.
So let's just kick things off with a statement that might kind of blow your mind. The story we usually hear is that the British came and took India from the Mughals, but honestly, that's not really how it went down. By the time the British became a major force, the Mughals were already a shadow of their former selves. The real power on the subcontinent, well, that was someone else entirely. And figuring out who they were is the key to understanding modern India.
So who was this new power? Who were these people that rose up from being a regional group to building the biggest empire in India, only to come face to face with the British at the very peak of their strength? Let's get into it.
Okay, so the Marathas are a people from the Deccan Plateau, all connected by their language, Marathi. But what really turned them into a single unified force was something called the Bhakti Movement. You can think of it as a kind of cultural revolution. You have these wandering saints who wrote these incredible songs, not in some stuffy academic Sanskrit, but in the everyday language of the people. This was huge. It wasn't just about religion. It was about forging a common identity, a sense of unity that became the bedrock for an empire.
But, cultural unity is one thing. To turn it into a political fire, you need a spark. And for the Marathas, that spark was an absolutely visionary leader named Shivaji. He wasn't just some warlord. No, he was driven by a powerful idea that was about to change everything.
And that idea, that one word, was Swarajya. Now, on the surface, it just means self-rule. But oh, it was so much more than that. This wasn't just about kicking out one king to put in another. It was a revolutionary call for total sovereignty, political freedom, economic control, and cultural independence. This one idea became their entire mission.
So, how does a small, scrappy force take on a colossal empire? Well, you don't play by their rules, that's for sure. Shivaji was a master of guerrilla warfare. He used speed, the element of surprise, and his encyclopedic knowledge of the rugged Deccan landscape. His forces could strike like lightning and then just vanish. They could defeat armies many times their size.
And this brings us to a legendary showdown. The powerful Sultanate of Bijapur sends its best general, Afzal Khan, with a simple mission: get rid of Shivaji, permanently. They agreed to meet one-on-one, inside a tent, away from their armies. I mean, come on, it's an obvious trap. So how does Shivaji walk into that tent and walk out alive?
You bet he came prepared. He had this, the wagnak, which literally means tiger's claw. It's this small, vicious weapon that you can hide right in the palm of your hand. So when Afzal Khan goes in for a fake hug and tries to stab him, Shivaji was ready. He used the tiger's claw, struck a fatal blow, and that was the signal for his hidden army to swarm in and completely destroy the enemy force. Just brilliant.
And from there, Shivaji's boldness just went through the roof. He launched this lightning-fast raid on Surat, which was the single wealthiest port in the entire Mughal Empire. The loot was valued at 1 crore rupees. To put that in perspective, we are talking about a fortune that would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. This wasn't just about getting rich, it was a massive psychological blow, a direct challenge to the emperor himself. Of course, he was eventually captured and put under house arrest, right in the Mughal capital. It looked like the end, but Shivaji pulled off one of the most ingenious escapes in all of history. Seriously, you can't make this stuff up. He pretended he was sick and started sending out these huge baskets of sweets to the poor, for good health. The guards checked them at first, of course, but day after day, these massive baskets came and went, and the guards just got bored, complacent, and that was the whole plan. One day, Shivaji and his son just hopped into 2 of the baskets and were carried right out the front gate. An escape so slick, the Mughal emperor never, ever got another chance to catch him.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It puts his journey into perspective. He starts his campaign when he's just 16 years old. He builds a navy, pulls off that great escape from the enemy capital, and is eventually crowned Chhatrapati, the sovereign emperor. And he accomplishes all of this in a life of just 50 years. He truly laid the foundation for everything that came next.
Okay, so daring raids and incredible escapes make for great stories, but they don't build an empire that lasts, right? Shivaji knew this. He wasn't just a warrior, he was an architect. So how did he design a state that could actually survive and grow long after he was gone?
Well, the answer starts with this powerful quote. For Shivaji, the kingdom was built on one thing above all else:
Forts. Forts were everything. They controlled trade routes, they gave shelter to armies, they were the centers of government. They were literally the bones of his kingdom, the entire structure holding it all together.
And to actually run this state, he created something brilliant, the Ashta Pradhana, or a council of 8 ministers. Now look, this wasn't just a group of buddies giving him advice. As you can see from this table, this was a fully formed cabinet, a prime minister for administration, a foreign minister for diplomacy. He even had an intelligence chief. This was a sophisticated, modern system of governance designed for one thing: efficiency. It was a blueprint for a real state.
And his vision went right down to the welfare of the ordinary person. Just listen to this instruction he gave to his officials about protecting the fruit trees of farmers. It tells you everything you need to know about his values. He understood that a kingdom is only as strong as its people are prosperous and happy. This wasn't just conquest for conquest's sake, it was about building a just society.
So Shivaji built the blueprint. But what happened next? How did this kingdom explode into a continent-spanning empire? And what is the real, lasting legacy of the Marathas on India today? What's so amazing about the Maratha story is the power wielded by women. You had leaders like Tarabai, an actual warrior queen who personally led the fight against the Mughal Empire, holding them at bay for years. And then there was Ahilyabai Holkar, the philosopher queen. Her 30-year reign was this golden age of peace and construction, rebuilding temples and roads all over India. These women were not just sitting in the background. They were rulers, shaping the destiny of the empire.
And the expansion under leaders like them was just staggering. Less than 100 years after Shivaji's death, the Maratha Empire was the undisputed power in India. Period. Just look at the territory they controlled, stretching from what is now Pakistan all the way down to the southern tip of the subcontinent.
And this, right here, brings us full circle, back to that bombshell I dropped at the start. When the British began their conquest, their main rival wasn't a decaying Mughal empire. It was the Marathas. They fought 3 huge, brutal wars. And get this, the Marathas actually won the first one. But, and this is the tragic part, internal conflicts and infighting among the Maratha chiefs weakened them from the inside, and that gave a disciplined and determined British force the opening they needed to win the final war, paving the way for the British Raj.
So when you boil it all down, what's the Maratha legacy? Well, they didn't just challenge the Mughals, they replaced them. They built a sophisticated, continent-spanning empire. But maybe their most powerful legacy was that simple idea, Swarajya. That call for self-rule, for independence, would echo down through the centuries, becoming a core inspiration for India's eventual freedom movement against the British.
And that really leaves us with one final big question, doesn't it? From a tiny regional power to a massive empire, the entire Maratha story was ignited and fueled by that one vision, Swarajya. It just makes you wonder, what does their story teach us about the incredible power of a single idea to truly change the world?